Hello, everybody, and welcome to this webinar hosted by Peace Brigade International. We welcome everybody from joining all around the world, whether different lands or Indigenous territories. We're really looking forward to speaking to you today. So a little bit of information about this event. We will be exploring with a wonderful host of panelists, the intersection of Indigenous rights and the impact of mega projects in Latin America, but also how PBI volunteers are working in solidarity with grassroots movements, resisting corporate abuses. Through this event, we will aim to amplify the voices of frontline Indigenous human rights defenders whose courageous work in defending land, culture, and community often comes at great personal risk. The webinar will also provide information for those interested in volunteering with Peace Brigade International as part of a protection team supporting these defenders. Before we begin, I just want to run through some housekeeping for everybody listening in. We have simultaneous interpretation available. To activate it, you go to the bottom of your screen, you click on the globe icon, and you choose your language preference. So we have Spanish and English available. I want to thank our interpreters for their support with this event, and I'm also going to pass over to a colleague who will shortly explain that action in Spanish.
Hola, buenos días. Sí, antes de empezar, queremos avisarles que para esta charla habrá traducción simultánea durante toda la charla. Entonces, para activarlo, hagan clic en el icono en forma de globo que aparece en la parte inferior de la pantalla. Puede ser que tienes que hacer clic también en con 3 puntos, esta parte con 3 puntos para activarla y pueden elegir su idioma preferido. Gracias.
Thanks, Melody. Okay, so my name is Rachel Cox, and I'm going to be facilitating the conversation with our panel today. I am a senior campaigner on the Land and Environmental Defenders campaign at Global Witness, and we work investigating and advocating for the rights and protection of land and environmental defenders worldwide. I've also been a member of the PBI Board of Trustees since 2003, and also do quite a bit of work with our Southeast Asia project. So today we have an amazing lineup of speakers. I'd like to welcome Lilian Lizeth Flores, who is a land and environmental defender with the Honduran Alternative for Community and Environmental Vindication, or ARCAH, in the Jiniguare community in Honduras. So ARCAH is an anti-capitalist, anti-colonialist grassroots movement working to defend land rights from megaprojects. We've also got with us Alejandra Ignacio Alvarez, who is a member of the Human Rights Solidarity Network in Michoacán, Mexico. And finally, we will hear from Melody Moore, who is currently a PBI volunteer in Mexico. And Melody will undoubtedly give you a taste of the work that PBI does, sharing her experiences from our protection team on the ground there. We have just over an hour together. We're going to spend some time hearing from each of our panelists who will answer questions that we've been thinking through relating to Indigenous rights and mega projects that affect Indigenous communities. And then we'll have a short 20-minute session at the end for any audience members to ask questions. So please do use the Q&A function at the bottom of the screen to submit any questions that you'd like to ask to any of our panelists. Okay, we will begin. So I'm going to start with Lilian. Lilian, would you be able to tell us a bit more about the situation that you are currently facing as it relates to Indigenous rights and mega projects, particularly if there's a specific mega project that you are working to challenge at the moment that you want to share?
¿Puedes explicar un poco acerca de los proyectos en que estás? Ay, perdón.
Bueno, buenas. Mi nombre es Lilian Lizeth Flores.
My name is Lilian. I live in Jiniguares, the community of Jiniguares. This is a village in the area of Jocones. I'm Lenca person from the ethnic group Lenca. The place where I live is a place where we cultivate the land. We cultivate vegetables, maize. We are the people who plant the land, and everything that we plant, that we grow, is for our own sustenance, but we also produce for the market. We sell our produce in Tegucigalpa, the city of Tegucigalpa as well. My struggle is based around the dam of Jiniguares. The project, the dam project, belongs to the Honduran state, and it's financed by an English bank, a British bank, and this comes from 10,000 million lempiras, I think she said, and it's being developed without any free, prior, or informed consent. Without any consultation with the community. We only find out about what's going on through what we read in the media. There's no kind of communication or consultation with us at all, but the effects of the work that they carry out damages the environment in which we live, the territory in which we live. They never ask permission when they come to our land, and they do whatever whatever the government that supports the project wants to do. And this is what's happening to us. They're developing their project without any kind of participation or consultation with us.
Thank you, Lilian, for sharing that. I want to, I guess, pass over to Alejandra and ask you the same question, if you'd be willing to share a bit more about the specific work the Human Rights Solidarity Network is doing and what threat megaprojects play to Indigenous rights in Mexico.
Hola, buenos días
Hi.
a todas, a todos.
Hello
Gracias
to
por el
everybody.
espacio.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak, us the
Bueno,
opportunity to
nosotras
speak.
somos una
So
organización,
we are an
estamos
organization
ubicadas en Michoacán, México,
based in Michoacán, in Mexico,
y trabajamos principalmente en
and
dos zonas,
we
en la
work
zona del pueblo
principally
originario Purépecha,
in the
zona del pueblo
Purépecha
originario
indigenous people, which is in the
Las
territory of the Noa
principales
indigenous
problemáticas que
nation.
trabajamos es
And the
el tema
principal
de
problems that we face, that we work on,
el fortalecimiento de la
are,
participación
well, we
política de
work
las
in the
mujeres
strengthening of the
en la
political
región
participation
purépecha.
of women
También
in the
trabajamos temas
Purépecha
que tienen que
region,
ver un poquito también con protección y seguridad
and
de los
we
que viven
also
en la región
work
purépecha
on
y
matters
en la
of
náhuatl con
security
compañeros
in
específicos.
Purépecha and in Nawa with specific comrades
Uno de
that we
los
work
problemas
with.
importantes de
One of
Michoacán es
the
el tema de los
important
monocultivos,
problems that
tanto el
we
monocultivo del
face
aguacate como el
in
monocultivo
Michoacán
de
are the
la frutilla y de las
monocultivation,
berries.
the
Eso ha
agro
llevado
production
a
of
situaciones
aguacate, of
complejas en
avocado,
diferentes comunidades que tienen que ver
which
con el
produces
robo del agua,
complex situations in different
pero
communities,
también
including the
el tema
stealing
de
of
que se
water
están
supplies, but also
apropiando de
the
tierras
fact that
comunitarias para la siembra
community
del aguacate.
lands are being
Michoacán es el
used
principal
to
exportador de aguacate
plant
de México.
avocado, because Michoacán is the
Estados Unidos, solo
principal
Michoacán y
exporter
Honduras
of
también
avocado
pueden exportar.
in
Entonces eso nos
Mexico,
genera
principally
como
destined
un
for the
tema de una
US
sobreexplotación de
market.
los suelos.
So we have an overexploitation of the land as a
Bueno,
result of
también
the demand in
trabajamos
the
temas
United
que tienen
States
que ver
for
con agroecología.
avocado.
Bueno, esos ahorita no
We
los
also
estamos
work
trabajando
on
por la situación de
environmental
seguridad, pero también los
aspects.
hemos venido
Well, currently
trabajando en
we
otros
are
años
finding it difficult to work
y
in that
ahorita
on that
estamos
topic because of the questions
acompañando
of
a
security. But in the past, we've worked on
un
the
joven y
ground
una
in terms
chica
of
de la zona sur de la
environmental
costa. Son
production.
hijos de personas que
We
fueron
also work with a group
compañeras de la
of young
organización hace unos
women
años y que
who
ahora se
are
encuentran
the
en calidad de
children
desaparecidos.
of people
Esto tiene que
who
ver
have been
específicamente con la
disappeared.
presencia de la
So the
minería
children of the
en
disappeared
la zona
community
este de la costa
members,
de acá de Michoacán.
disappearances associated
Bueno, ahí
with
andamos
other
acompañándoles en el tema
region
de
of
tanto de
Michoacán who were
existencia y
associated
justicia,
with
pero
struggles
también
against mining
pues el tema de
activities. So
seguridad, de
we work with
protección.
them in order
Bueno,
to
en
try
estos
and
momentos
advance
estamos
in their
compartiendo
cases, but also
con ellas.
working on the
A
matter
grandes
of
rasgos, eso es lo
security
que
and
nosotros venimos
protection.
haciendo.
So in broad terms, that's the work that we carry out in Michoacán.
Thank you, both of you. I guess a question to both of you, but we'll start with Lilian, is you both indicated the role of international, well, in Lilian, your case, banks on financing, but then also the role of global markets, particularly from the US for you, Alejandra, that is driving corporate abuses in both Mexico and Honduras. I guess I'm wondering if you could expand a bit, Lilian, on, what role you think advocacy at local level by organizations such as yourself, but then in conjunction with international advocacy, what role that plays, and how you think that's important.
Bueno, lo
Well,
que yo puedo decir es
what
que
I
la
can
lucha
say
que hemos
on
tenido
that is that the
constantemente, ¿verdad?
struggle, our
Con lo que es el
permanent
Estado de
struggle
Honduras,
with the state, with the
son
Honduran
luchas
state,
que no son
these
fáciles,
are,
son
it's
difíciles
not easy, that it's very
de lograr,
difficult
¿verdad?
to
Porque
carry
son
out these struggles, right?
a
Because
personas de
um,
dinero y
we
de
are
grandes posesiones
combating people
y de
with
grandes
power, with
cargos.
money, with large properties.
Pero estamos
But
desde hace como
what
ya,
we have been
desde
doing
hace muchos años,
now for
estamos en estas
many
luchas y
years
siempre
now, we've
pasa
been
de uno
engaged
a
in
otro
this
y siempre
struggle for
siguen dañándolos.
many years.
Siempre siguen con el mismo
But
consigno
the
de que
damage
van a
continues to
hacer la
be
represa, que
committed
van a hacer la
against us.
represa,
They're
lo cual los
insisting
van a dañar a
always
nosotros
that
como
the
los que
dam,
vivimos
they're
ahí
going to
y los que
continue building the
sobrevivimos, pero
dam, with the
sobrevivimos de sí
effect
mismos, de
of
nosotros, de
the
nuestras siembras, de
project
nuestras
is that our
cosechas, de
interests are
nuestro trabajo
damaged, that our
y no
land is
dañamos a
damaged, that
nadie.
our territories are stolen, that we
La
find
cual
it difficult
va a
to
haber
work.
una inundación
But
que se va a
we don't
inundar
cause harm to
árboles, hay una vegetación
anybody.
grande,
And what there's going to be when the
montón de
dam is built,
animales, de
there's going
todo
to
tipo
be
de
an
animales,
area
¿verdad?
rich
Cual
in
se van a
flora and
inundar.
fauna of trees and
Sería
animals.
una
It's going to
lástima
be
ver ese
flooded,
lugar
and
tan
it's going to
bello
be
inundado
a terrible thing to see this
bien
beautiful land
inundado
that we
porque
live in
de ahí
flooded
sembramos
by
y hacemos,
the waters,
las
because
personas
the
comen
lands
mucho
that
de
are
todos
going to be
lugares,
flooded
van,
are the lands that we
plantamos de lo que
cultivate, that
sembramos,
people live
compartimos
from,
con
and
todas
that
las
we
personas
share. We
que
share
no
the
tienen un
land,
lugar
we
para
work the
sembrar como
land and
nosotros
enjoy the
mismos.
land collectively, and we're not going to have any land to work anymore after the dam is completed.
Thank you, Lilian. I think that's really terrible to hear, and we understand how much the work that you're doing is about protecting both the land and the environment, but also thinking about the role that culture plays for the Lenca community in Honduras and how that would be affected. I guess, Alejandra, we have some time also to hear from you about the role that advocacy plays in the work that you're doing, particularly against avocado plantations. But then also you referenced work that you do supporting mining communities that are opposed to mining operations in Michoacán who have faced incredible threats as a result of the work that they do.
Sí, bueno, el impacto
Yes.
del aguacate acá
Well,
en
the
Michoacán,
impact of the
no solo
avocado
es,
cultivation in Michoacán,
bueno, de entrada es la parte de la preocupación por la tierra
well, we're concerned about the
lo que está
land
generando en
and
términos
the effects
de
that it
robo de
has
agua,
in terms of the
del
filtration
daño
of
al suelo que
water,
se
the
está
loss of
haciendo por
water and
este
the
tema de
damage to the
la
soils
sobreplantación
that
de
is
aguacate
caused by
con
the over cultivation of avocado
pero también
on these
esto
lands. But also
lo que ha generado acá es muchísima violencia.
it's also led to very high levels of
Michoacán es uno de
violence.
los estados
And
más peligrosos
Michoacán
de
is
México
one of the most dangerous states in Mexico as a
y en gran
result.
parte se debe a la
And
presencia
this
del
is in
aguacate,
large part
porque
a
Activarlo
result of
cuenta
the
con un
cultivation
producto
of avocado,
de muy
because
alta demanda
it's
y de
a
muy alta
product that
derrama
is in
económica.
great demand
Entonces,
and generates an awful lot of
ahora lo que vemos
economic
sucediendo mucho también es el
income.
robo de
So
las
what we're
tierras a las
seeing
diferentes
increasingly
comunidades
now is that communities are
para
seeing their
siembra de
land stolen
aguacate y
from
también les
them
roban su agua como para
by
poder
the avocado
regar estos
interests,
frutos,
and
porque el
also
aguacate requiere
the
muchísima
subtraction of water, because
entonces eso se vuelve
avocado
como muy
needs an awful lot of
complicado,
water
sobre todo
to grow.
porque
So
por la
communities are
violencia
losing their
y
traditional
que lo
lands and their
mismo
water
pasa
supplies
en
as
la
a
zona
result of
minera,
this massive
donde
cultivation of
tenemos
avocado. And it's similar in the case of mining,
pues mínimo en los últimos 4
where
años,
at
3
least over
años,
the last 3 or
hay
4
reporte de
years,
manera que nosotras podemos constatar, pero estamos
we
trabajando
have
en
been
estos
able
números,
to
de al
prove or
menos 10
demonstrate
defensores de
that
derechos
at
humanos
least
desaparecidos
10
o asesinados
human rights
por su
defenders have
labor
been
en contra
disappeared or
de la
murdered
minera. Estamos hablando
as
de
a
mineros
result of the
grandes
work that they've been carrying out against the
con
mining
presencia internacional,
activities.
entonces se vuelven
And these are mining activities with
sí, grandes
international
enemigos
financing. So the defenders, human rights defenders and community leaders are seen as the enemies of the financial interests, the economic interests of these companies, and the result is that they have been subjected to death and disappearance.
Perdón, una disculpa.
I'm sorry.
Sí, bueno, las mineras, como les
So the
comentaba,
mining companies, like I said,
esta situación de que tienen negocios con gobierno.
Because they have interests, they carry out their business interests in conjunction with the government, also makes it a much more difficult situation to confront.
Thank you both, I think, for expanding on the work that you do, but also how difficult the landscape is for both yourselves and your organizations to undertake this type of work. I think that, you know, you've explained how complex, you know, challenging mega projects can be, whether it's agribusiness, mining, or hydro dams. But also you've outlined some of the serious threats that people face as a result of doing so. I was wondering if we could move on, Lilian, and if you could talk a little bit more about, I guess, the work that you've done in conjunction with PBI. So how has PBI accompaniment helped you to advance your work as a human rights defender?
Agradecemos al acompañamiento de la
Well,
PBI.
we really are very grateful to PBI's accompaniment that has been offered to us for all of us, men and women. It's very important that we have the accompaniment of PBI because we're living in a situation of emergency, because it's possible that the dam project will force us off our land. We really, we develop all of our work in order to defend our territory, and we are very grateful for the work that PBI does in order to support us in our struggle through its work in the United Kingdom. We are very grateful for the advocacy activity, the communication work that they carry out in the UK, because it's very important that the bank stops financing, the British bank stops financing the company, and PBI has offered us support in all of these important areas.
Thank you for sharing that. I was going to say, and Alejandra, could you also talk a little bit about how PBI accompaniment has helped you to advance your work in Mexico, but particularly also how international solidarity has made a difference?
Claro, pues para nosotros ha sido muy importante el
Well, of
acompañamiento
course, for us, the PBI accompaniment has been really important in training activities. Workshops that PBI carries out have been very important in terms of protection and political advocacy, but also the advocacy work itself that PBI carries out directly, and in the opening up of the possibilities that we have to raise our voices with the authorities. So I think it's been very, very important also the information that PBI has provided about the situation, about the results, the effects of avocado production and the mining activities. And this has led to expressions of solidarity from a wide range of people. We'd also say that as well as all of these political activities and advocacy activities, the actual physical accompaniment that is provided to us, that PBI provides, has really helped in terms of our protection. The accompaniment that PBI has also provided in opening up the opportunity to enter into dialogue and to enter into networking with other organizations. For example, last year, we were working with migrant people who were passing through Michoacán on their way towards the north. And I think that this contact that we had with other people suffering difficult situations was very important to us as well. It helped us to understand the situation that our country was facing, but also to make connections, to develop relationships with other people who were living difficult situations, but different situations to ourselves. All of this has been really important.
Thank you both. So you've talked about, I guess, the importance of training and support on that front, of protective accompaniment that PBI offers, but then also the role of connecting, I guess, through networks, particularly on the international stage. And both of you have talked about the role of international corporations or financing that drives the projects that are harmful to your communities. I guess, Lilian, it would be great to hear from you a bit more from you about the role that PBI Honduras has played in supporting the Lenca community, particularly opposing the dam, and whether there's anything else you'd like to add about how that's been really effective for the campaign work that you do.
Bueno, ellos los han apoyado tanto que han ido
So
a
they've
nuestras
supported us
comunidades,
so
les han
much.
enseñado en los talleres,
They've shown us how to do
los
things
han
in
enseñado a
workshops.
defenderlos más que todo,
They've taught
porque
us how
ellos
to
los apoyan
defend
en lo que
ourselves
es
because
la
they support
forma
us
de que ellos los dicen,
in
tienen
how
estos derechos, tienen los otros.
and
Entonces,
what the
yo
rights that we
le
have,
doy
the
muchas
what our
gracias a
rights
ustedes
are.
porque
And so
les ha
thank you
ayudado
to PBI
bastante,
because you've
bastante
helped
a
us so
saber
much
cómo
in training to
defenderlo,
know
les ha
how
enseñado en
to
los
defend
talleres también,
ourselves.
hasta la
With
forma
the
de hablar,
workshops,
los han
how to
entrenado
talk
para
to
poderlos
people
defender, porque
when we
anteriormente no
are
sabíamos cómo
working as
defenderlos.
defenders,
Pues
because this
ahora,
is
como usted
ways, the
veía,
different
ellos,
ways
ellos
to
nos
better
muestran
defend
cómo
ourselves.
defenderlos.
They've shown us how
Hay
to
muchas
defend ourselves and defend
capacitaciones
our
que ellos
land.
nos han
So there's
ayudado
so
a
much
hacer
training
de
they've
que
given us.
nosotros logremos entender que nosotros
So it helps us to
tenemos valores
understand and to
como
understand what our values
lenguas,
are.
como
And
lencas,
like and the
porque las
rights that
demás
we
personas
have
nos ven
as
como
Lenkers,
que
as ethnic
no somos
people,
nada,
as
pero ellos
indigenous
nos
people.
demuestran que sí somos.
You say it's not so much, but they've shown us all of these and they've helped us. They've helped us in that way.
Thank you both. We will move on to Melody, who is currently volunteering with PBI Mexico. So Melody, it'd be really great to hear, I guess, from your perspective as being part of the PBI accompaniment or protection unit in Mexico, and just to understand your experience as a volunteer. So I guess we could start with what brought you to PBI and what's your experience been like in Mexico so far?
Thank you, and yeah, thanks to my compañeras en terreno también por compartir como sus experiencias. Yeah, so what brought me to PBI? Well, I actually went to an event in London of PBI. They had a Colombian activist lawyer visiting, so I went along to that and got to hear his experiences firsthand. And I hadn't heard of the work of PBI in that moment. This was like 4 or 5 years ago. And I met some of the team there and chatted to them. And for me, it just sounded like I found out about the volunteering at around the same time, and to me it just sounded like a really incredible opportunity and experience to come and work so directly with activists. Well, yeah, in the various countries that PBI works in my case, Mexico. And yeah, it just really drew me in the idea of going and working in like on the ground here, and being able to kind of get to know, understand the true experience of activists who live this experience every day. And from that moment, I just became a bit really motivated to come and do it. And yeah, that was a few years ago, and then I joined the team in January this year. So I've been in the team for about 5 months, and yeah, so far it's been equally amazing. A really steep, fast learning curve, but also at the same time shocking to be here and see the situation that these activists currently have to face every day. And yeah, for me, I'm here for a year, but the reality of living that every single day, and the fact that as we see with all these mega projects, it's it's how do you say? I'm mixing now. It's just a bit like never ending. The situation with the situation of mega projects consistently trying to remove people from their land and take all the resources of the people from there. And yeah, it's definitely difficult to see that playing out in real time, especially when you formed these relationships with activists here who we are in contact with all the time, and that is something really beautiful and special about this role, because you get the opportunity to get to know people, get to form relationships, and understand this perspective. And yeah, for me, it's been really amazing so far. I'm working more in Sonora, so in the north of Mexico, and I've been to the territory a few times, and I work constantly with the activists who are based there, to do constant analysis of their situation of security, provide them with physical accompaniment, like we've when necessary, like we've mentioned, and really just continue to try and open up spaces for dialogue, for them to carry out their actions and be heard by different levels of authorities here in Mexico.
Thank you so much. It's really great to hear your first-hand experience of joining a specific project, and what that kind of looks like. I think it would also be really interesting to hear a bit more, for those that don't know PBI's work so well, like what protective accompaniment is, and if you could expand on that a little bit, that would be really helpful, I think, for our audiences to better understand. But then also, if you could speak a little bit about not only what that is, but how you think that's valuable, particularly in the context that Alejandra and Lilian have spoken about, where communities face such high risk as a result of the work that they do.
Oh yeah. So physical accompaniment with PBI basically looks like us. Well, we have our house in Mexico, and we have these projects throughout. Well, we work with different activists throughout the whole country, and like Michoacán, Sonora, Pueblo, Morelos, specifically here in Mexico. And basically, the physical accompaniment is whenever activists petition us to go to their state, we will basically go and accompany them physically in whatever actions they are carrying out. So our role in that is to just observe, is to just be there, is to try and maintain their level of security in that situation, as an international observer. So we don't play any role in those activities. Of course, they're activities that the activists are constantly doing. It's work that they've been doing for years and years. So we are just there to try and make sure that they're given some sort of security by our presence, and to draw a bit of attention to those activities as well through our communication, and our contact with authorities. So those activities could be protests, they could be meetings with authorities about different cases, they could be forums. So they could be a variety of different activities, basically. So we're just there physically to be present as PBI. Oh, you're in mute.
Thank you so much. It's really helpful, I think, for audiences to better understand the role that PBI plays when working with grassroots organizations. I guess a last quick one for you, just again for audiences to better understand, for anybody that's listening that may be thinking about applying to join a PBI office or group as a volunteer. Could you elaborate on, I guess, your experience of applying to do this, and what that has been like for you? So the process that you had to go through.
Yeah. So the process is, well, it's very complete, I'd say, because you basically start and you'll do your application, kind of like you do for any other job, and then you have an interview, and then after that first interview, which is just one-on-one with someone, you basically have a kind of group training, which is still part of the interview process. Which at the time I definitely remember thinking or remember feeling that it felt like a very long, or not a long process, but a very, I guess it goes through every different stage very completely. So it's covering all bases basically. And I found that at the time, maybe I viewed it from a different perspective, but now that you're in the team, as soon as you join, you get that understanding of really why that's necessary, because it's a big change. It's an adaptation. It's a violent context that you'll be coming to live in and work in. So it's really important to understand that before. And it also takes you have to be willing to accept certain conditions. And for instance, there's no partisanship. There's different levels that you have to be willing to accept to do the work. And I think it's really important that that's laid out beforehand. And it really allowed me to enter the team with a more deep understanding of what the work was and what I would be doing. Although, it is a voluntary role. It's a difficult voluntary role. So you want to be made aware fully of what you're signing up to beforehand. And I think that really helped. And it really helps, knowing that it's right for you at the time. So, that's a bit about the process. I don't know if there's anything else you'd like me to elaborate on.
That's amazing. Thank you very much. And obviously we can take more questions from audience members later if there are questions specifically around volunteering opportunities or the processes for applying. I guess like the purpose for doing this though is the drive to work with human rights defenders, land and environmental activists who are looking to make real impact and change within the communities that they live, operate and work. So I'd really like to come back to Lilian and ask if you can speak more about the dam, so the Jiniguare Dam. So could you tell us, I guess, is it currently under construction? What's the current situation and that Lenca people are facing in terms of trying to oppose this project?
Bueno,
Okay.
lo que
So-
la represa no todavía
So the
no
dam
está en construcción,
hasn't
solamente que
started,
dicen que
construction hasn't started on the dam.
La represa dicen
But
ellos ya dicen que
they
tienen el
say
dinero, como lo
they have the
mencioné
money,
anteriormente, que
as I
tienen
mentioned
todo el
before.
dinero para
They've got all
ya
the money
empezar lo que
to
es
start what?
la construcción de la cortina.
So yeah, the
Pero
construction
lo
of the
que a
actual
nosotros,
curtain.
bueno,
But
principalmente a nosotros que somos lencas,
so us as the Lenca people, they're not taking us into account, not as the Lenca people, as Indigenous people. All they think about, they just talk amongst themselves. They don't involve us in the process at all. They're going to, they just say that it's good. Like, I mean, really, it's a benefit to the government, but they're already, and so they have these two areas where they're like these places where they're sending and directing the water at the moment already. They don't clean these areas. They don't do anything. So there's this little bit of water that comes into these pools. They sell this water. And so they're already channeling off this water and selling it. And this is in our land. And so when they've already got to, why do they need this dam? And they're not doing anything for these. And they already have that. And why do they want this new dam? And they've never consulted with us. It's always just damaging our community. And they're just going, like, this is going to destroy, this is going to have a huge negative impact on our whole community. We are the Lenca people. And we're fighting, when we were fighting against them. It's our land. They're our ancestral lands. We have had it for generations. So many generations that we've existed and lived there. We don't want to leave there. Our roots are there. And then they're going to do it because they want everything. They want to rip us from our roots, tear us away from our roots. They already have the access to these water that they take and they sell that water, and so they just want to keep making money, and that's what I can tell you about it.
And I guess to just elaborate further, Lilian, like, do you feel, you know, that the consequences of this dam being built are huge for yourself and the Lenca community? Like, do you feel that there's time to prevent this project from moving ahead? Like, what opportunities do you feel that there are for you to successfully challenge a project of this size?
Nuestra lucha es hasta el
So
final.
our struggle, yeah, we will continue to the end. So we are fighting for them to stop and to give up. We don't want to give up our land. We are living on our land. We look after it. We grow our food on it. And we live from our land. So we will never, ever give up. And so we have a right. It's our land. We're not stealing anything from them. So yes. So this, we will always fight for our rights and for our rights to be respected. And we will always be standing and fighting. And yeah, we need to stop the funding from the bank, because what the bank is doing is causing harm to us. It's not something, it's not a benefit to this country, to our country, because it's a very beautiful area. It's beautiful. It is lush. And we will not let them to harm our culture, our animals, our flora, our fauna, because it's so beautiful what is there. And yeah, you can't find this sort of thing in other places.
I guess like one to comment on something that you've said, or to ask you to elaborate more on it. You know, you've talked again about the cost of this project to the landscape and to your people. You've talked about the role of international financing, particularly from British financiers, and what, you know, that being an underlying driver behind this particular project. Can you elaborate a bit more on the role that diplomatic pressure might play to prevent this from moving forward? What opportunities are there, do you think, to try and use the international links through PBI and other organizations working on these issues to try and prevent this project from moving forward?
¿Me puede repetir la pregunta, por favor, que no escuché bien?
Can you just repeat the question, please?
Yeah, so I guess I'm asking, like, what role you see for international advocacy or pressure. So what role can the UK government take? What role can other international mechanisms play in trying to prevent this particular project from moving forward in Honduras?
Bueno, mi
Okay.
pensamiento
So what I think as an organization is sending letters to the banks to tell them to stop the project. We do not to harm our community. You don't want the harm given to the community. And so yeah, to pressure the bank.
Okay, that's great, thank you. And then turning to you, Alejandra, could you, I guess, also speak a bit more about, particularly for our audiences, many of whom will be outside of Mexico, you know, what role do you see them being able to play, particularly pressuring, you know, global markets, or, you know, their grocery store, their buying habits? Like, what role do individual people, can they play in trying to prevent harms that are occurring abroad because of the types of activities that they do, whether it's buying avocados in the supermarket, you know, yeah, what role do you think, what more can people be doing to support advocacy, your advocacy work?
Sí, pues creo que principalmente eso que comentas, que es el tema
Yes, I think above all, like what you've mentioned, perhaps not so much perhaps about not buying, but a more responsible consumption, not only of avocado, but of crops in general, because really it's very difficult to speak about the impact that eating an avocado or eating a strawberry might have. But here, the impact isn't only on communities, on people, it's their production produces a situation, and I think we've got good evidence for this that shows that Michoacán is experiencing a concept that has been known for a while as macro criminality. It's so we've got the damage itself caused by the projects, but it's linked with organized crime, which is a very major problem in Michoacán, and which also implicates the authorities. And so there's an endless circle involving the authorities, organized crime, violence, megaprojects, agro-industry, and it's very, very difficult really to see a way out of this vicious circle that we're living, that we're experiencing. So I think that this is what we need to communicate. We need to therefore be aware of this circle, this vicious circle, and be conscious about the implications of buying and eating these products.
So awareness is definitely important for international audiences, for those that are buying and engaging with produce that is, produced abroad. I guess I'm also interested to understand a bit more about the role that you see not just our audiences playing, but international governments or other mechanisms in order to try and advance the advocacy work that you are doing.
Sí, pues creo que sobre todo
Yes.
es la exigencia.
So I think this is what we're demanding, really. So there's supposedly there's an international legal frameworks on business and human rights, but or at least a framework, but it's very difficult to ensure that these frameworks are actually implemented, because to implement them, too many economic interests would be damaged. There's a disincentive to apply these international frameworks. So I think, therefore, that it's really important that each of us from our own countries, from our own experiences, continue to talk about this matter. Where do the things that we eat come from? For instance, in Mexico, where do the things that we consume in Mexico come from? Because we're often unaware of the implications of what we eat as well. And so I think that we need to be aware of the impacts, to understand the impacts that the models of production that we buy our food from is a contribution, is important. And I think that these discussions also, this communication between the people, the possibility to get the press to report on it, and this is something which our relationship with PBI has been important. PBI, for instance, has been able to generate an impact in Spain through press reports in Spain as a result of the accompaniment that has been offered to us by PBI. So these are concrete examples of how this accompaniment provided by PBI can lead to greater understanding by the community of consumers, and therefore to demands for action by the government.
Thank you, Alejandra. I guess another quick follow-up to what you were talking about, because you talked about irresponsible business and the role that plays, and I think that's the case for both Lilian and yourself. Your experience of irresponsible business is part of the driver behind why first projects are undertaken in the first place, a lack of consultation with communities, ongoing environmental damage and harms, why this irresponsible business has a big part to play in why this occurs. However, you also elaborated on the wider factors that affect communities' work and also mix in with what makes it such a difficult operating environment for you to live and work in. So you talked about the role of organized crime in particular, and the conflict that creates at local level. I'm just wondering if you could expand a bit on how challenging that is for yourself and the communities that you work with, and what role or what actions you have to, or what challenges does that present for the work that you do? It would be good to hear about that.
Bueno, los
Well,
impactos son
the
diferentes.
impacts are various, they're
Tenemos
different.
desde el tema de la movilidad.
We've got the question of mobility.
Las últimas semanas
In recent weeks, for instance,
bloqueos con
we've
temas de
had
vehículos
blockades, we've had
caminos
vehicles
limitados.
have transit has
Eso ha
been
sido
restricted.
no solo,
This
sí ha sido muy impactante, pero
has
también
had a
creo que es
major
una
effect
muestra
on the
porque estamos
possibility
hablando que hace un par de
to
semanas, por
develop our
ejemplo, hubo
lives. A couple
quema
of
de
weeks ago,
vehículos
for instance,
en
vehicles
3
were
puntos diferentes
burnt
del estado al mismo tiempo.
in
Y
23
entonces se
different
está
places
hablando de una
across the state.
coordinación entre
Vehicles were
crimen
burnt
organizado
across
y
the state. So this
actores
is
del
evidence
narco.
of coordinated
Estamos
activities by the
hablando
armed
de actores de un solo
organized
grupo.
crime.
Michoacán debe de tener presencia,
And it's not
yo creo
just
que
that
de
we
más de
have
18
one
grupos del crimen
organized
organizado y
group, we've
este es
got
solo uno.
18
Entonces,
organized criminal
está
groups
claramente el
operating in
impacto
Michoacán.
emocional
And
y
this
el
was just the
impacto
actions of one of
psicológico.
them.
También
So
que hay
this
un
has a
tema
major emotional and
de
psychological impact on
mucha
us
incertidumbre constante, y más
because
cuando estamos hablando que pues,
the
España es uno de los
presence and the
Estados Unidos
power
donde
of
las
these
personas
groups creates
defensoras de
tremendous
derechos
levels
humanos son
of
asesinadas,
uncertainty.
desaparecidas, criminalizadas.
And we know that
Eso
human
sí
rights
genera
defenders are criminalized,
impactos como
trumped
tal.
up charges, but they're also disappeared, they're also murdered. So the levels of
Está pues
uncertainty
tema del
produced by this
frenar
situation
actividades,
is
justo
awful. And
nosotras como
it tends to have a
gremio
chilling effect. It tends to
visualizamos
mean
una parte del
that people find it more
trabajo
difficult to develop
en
their
temas
activism.
no tan reactivos, por así decirlo. Nos habíamos
But
imaginado trabajar en el
also
tema
it has
del
led
derecho al acceso a la tierra por parte
us
de mujeres
working
de
perhaps
nuestras
in a way that
comunidades,
is not quite so
porque al final de
reactive.
cuentas es una petición
We
que
used
traemos
to
desde hace
work
mucho, que es esta
a
parte
lot,
de
for
las
instance,
mujeres
responding to the
somos
situation of
en mucha medida
the
las que trabajamos la
harm
tierra, pero no
damage
tenemos
caused
derecho a la tierra, no somos
to
comunidades.
women. We've been
No
looking at the
son nuestros
structural aspects as
hermanos,
well.
nuestros
For
padres,
instance, it's
no son
often
de
we
nuestra
women
comunidad,
who are the
nos
ones
y
who work
veíamos
the
por
land,
ahí
but we don't
procesos
have access to the land. We don't have rights to the
trabajo en
land. And so there's a
limpiezas,
question of
agroecología,
the
como
rights
que
of women,
pensamos,
of feminist
quizá
agenda
lo que
as
nos
well, that we're
resultamos,
beginning to work on more to
dábamos
try and
solución a esa parte del trabajo,
confront this
pero pues después
structural
vamos con la realidad, y la
inequalities
realidad
that we
con
face.
contexto en que no nos
But then, having
permite.
said that, we have to
Entonces,
come up against reality, and their
el
realities
tema de
where,
tener que
when we try to
cambiar
organize ourselves, we
la
confront these
forma en la
levels
que
of
nos vamos
violence and
organizando, porque
arbitrariness.
al final de cuentas
So
somos
it's in
muchas
that
personas
context
que
that we're trying to
presionamos ante la
develop
situación
the
de
process of organization
violencia
among
del Estado.
women in order to try to
Entonces, creo
respond
que
to the violence of the
son como los
state and of the
impactos más
organized groups. So I think that these are the principal consequences for us of the presence of these armed groups and of their work, their coordination with the state.
Thank you, Alejandra. I also really appreciate you bringing in, I guess, like the ways in which the challenges that you both face, both in Honduras and Mexico, affect human rights defender communities differently. So particularly the unique challenges faced by women doing this kind of work. So I'm really very grateful for you for talking about that and mentioning that, because I'm sure there are lots of different ways in which you have to overcome that challenge specifically. I guess this brings me to my kind of final question for the panel before we move on to a Q&A. But it'd be good to kind of, you've talked about the incredible challenges that you both face, within your local communities, and then at a national level. Also, some of the challenges of trying to push international institutions to better work with and respond to the harms that are being caused by these mega projects in both Honduras and Mexico. Globally, we're seeing this huge kind of shift to the right with more authoritarianism, more conflict, challenges created by the climate crisis. And these are all issues that are affecting everybody, but particularly human rights defenders very keenly or very, very strongly. I guess, that's quite a negative note to end on, but I'm wondering, like, despite these challenges, whether you've kind of undertaken any creative, or it's opened up any new opportunities for you to advocate around the projects that you're working on. So Lilian, I don't know if you want to say a few final words about where you think the opportunities are over the next year or 6 months for yourself and the Lenca community, and what action you'd like to see happen to try and push your work forward.
Bueno, bueno,
Yeah.
nosotros estamos en constante
Well, we are constantly in a process of organization. We are united in our struggles with other communities. We are constantly meeting together every week, every day. We meet together to see if there's some advocacy activities, if there's been some progress that we've been able to achieve. And that's what we do. We work together, we unite our efforts. We're constantly in a process of dialogue with each other to try to advance. We also have a further problem, which is the judicialization, the criminalization of, in particular, the coordinator of ARCAH has been imprisoned simply because he has defended our territory. He's been arrested and imprisoned as a result of his struggles. So therefore, we make a call to the international community to join us in our struggle, to apply international pressure to provide support so that we can demand his release. Everything that you can do from the international community to help us in our struggle, because our struggle is permanent. Day after day, we're involved in our struggle, and we need to be able to continue as an organization, as organizations, and to do that, we need your accompaniment. We need you to carry on accompanying.
Thank you, Lilian. And I guess,
Gracias, Lilian y Alejandra.
The same message to you, which I can hear the translator. Apologies. I was going to say the same message to you, Alejandra. I guess, what opportunities do you see for the future for advocacy for yourself?
Bueno, en específico
Well,
para la
specifically
comunidad purépecha, que es a la que
for
nosotros
the
pertenecemos,
community
pueblo
that
originario
we are a member of, the
del pueblo purépecha.
Purépecha community,
Pues estamos
we,
acá en el estado se están llevando a cabo
so
los
in
procesos de
Michoacán,
presupuesto directo, pero
there's
también
a
creemos
lot
que se
of what's
están llevando
called
a cabo los
direct
procesos de
budgeting.
autonomía y libre determinación.
We are seeking to control budgets, but we're also struggling for our free determination, our self-determination, and to control our own budgets. And so ways in which the international community could support us in this struggle to ensure self-determination for our communities be very important. And in terms of advocacy activities, well, I think above all, it's awareness raising. It's raising the profile of the situation that we face. It's important, as Lilian has said, in the case of the criminalization of human rights defenders and the risks that many people find themselves in as a result of their defense activity. It's very difficult. It's a very complex situation. So I think that the international awareness raising of the situation that we face in our communities, in our territory, is very, very important and is central really to the strategies that we think might be effective.
Thank you both so much. We have a couple of questions from our audience who's listening in. I guess the first, we can start with you, Alejandra, is coming back to kind of the wider operating environment in Mexico. So our question is, how does the symbiotic relationship between criminal organizations and the police impact your security and well-being?
Híjole, pues en todos los sentidos. Se supone que
in all ways,
debería o podría garantizar nuestra seguridad.
they should or guarantee our security. So that's what the police should do. However, in Michoacán, the municipal police, so they're sort of like the most direct police officers, sort of like the ones that sort of on the streets. They have shown once and again that they are aligned with criminal groups, and so they have stolen water. So yeah, areas of water has been stolen, and they've been protected by the police when people are stealing water. They kidnap people, they kill people. It's very common. And so where people are disappeared and killed, like human rights defenders are killed or kidnapped, then there's collusion with the army, with different members of the police force. And so, yeah. So it's a huge impact. Not having these guarantees that should be protected, that should be upheld by the police and different forces, and yeah, not being able to rely on them, in fact, being threatened by them.
Thank you, Alejandra. It's an incredibly difficult situation to work in. So we really appreciate you sharing some of those details, particularly given how horrendous some of the harms caused by the state or with the support of the state are for communities. Another question that has come in, and Lilian, again, to come back to you and the dam the Lenca community are opposing, would you be able to expand? So we're being asked about the specific names of the banks that are financing the project. Could you elaborate a bit, if you're comfortable to, on the specific institutions that are enabling this to go forward?
Bueno, el banco se
so
llama
the bank
UPF,
is
que es un banco de
UPF.
Inglaterra.
It's an English bank.
Ese es el que
UPF, I
tiene
think
el
they said,
dinero, el que va a prestar
and that's
el
the one
dinero
that is
para-
going to
para
lend the
hacer
money,
y la construcción para construir la represa.
the money for the building of
De
the dam.
ahí es donde el gobierno quiere sacar el dinero para
And so
poder
that's how the government wants to get the
realizar y
money to be able to
proyecto.
undertake the project.
And do you know at all, I guess, what
Se
stage?
llama UKF.
UKF. It's an English bank. UKF.
Okay, thank you, Lilian. And do you know what stage in the process the financing by UKF is? Are you aware of that? Or can you elaborate on that?
En los momentos está en solicitud.
So it's under request. It's the application is going forward at the moment.
Okay, thank you very much. And then Alejandra, it's the same question for you. Could you elaborate, if you're able to, on the different corporate actors that are involved, particularly around the avocado industry that you are challenging? That would be useful.
Específically,
talking about it's called el agua. It's all of the. They're not specific companies. It's everybody relating to the avocado. And so the ones that are getting export grants and permits. And so it's not an issue of specific companies. It's the whole industry. To simplify it a bit, so if I go out onto the street, you can just see, so it's just constantly more and more and more avocado farms. It's just expanding constantly. Like you just go out like on the street leading out of any urban area, and yeah. And so, yeah, so many people are just dependent on avocado. And so, like, it's completely destroying the water resources. There's no water left. And we've also documented. So, yeah, there's been lots of land grabbing. There's been water theft and being undertaken relating to the avocado industry here. So it's a much broader issue in terms of mining. She cut out just as she said. So they've been accused of being involved in the disappearance of various colleagues.
And I guess a final kind of follow-up on the mining question there, Alejandra. Could you just elaborate? Sorry, you cut out slightly. Could you just elaborate again on the issue of mining companies and speak more a bit to that? Particularly, is there international links to those mining companies in the Michoacán area?
Sí, la que ha sido señalada
Yes.
de manera
So
directa,
directly
incluso hace unos meses
accused,
hubo una gira de incidencia por parte
and there's
de un
been
compañero que
a
hizo
direct
directamente un poco
incident in the last few
es
months is
Ternium,
Ternium.
Argentina.
It's an Argentinian mining company.
Como toda esta situación muy atípica, o sea, tiene
And
su
so we've
sede
got
en
this
Luxemburgo,
atypical
pero
situation
tiene
because,
sede
we've got like, there's a
tiene, como
Luxembourg
todas estas,
links. And
irregularidades en su
yeah,
forma
lots of
de
different
operar,
weird
que no
ways
tienen
of
sentido,
operating,
justamente.
irregularities in its
Está Ternium, creo que
operations.
Ternium son varias,
And
pero esa
Termium,
específicamente,
but that's the one that
incluso después de la
specifically
desaparición
there
de
has
los
been the
compañeros,
disappearance of,
incluido Ricardo, en su ocasión,
Ricardo and
mismo
other colleagues
hubo
recently
un
that PBI has been
señalamiento
accompanying as
muy
well.
puntual,
And they have
no
also
solo a
been
nivel nacional, sino a nivel internacional contra
yeah,
Ternium, lo que lo
so
ha
there have been
hecho ser acudir
accusations against
compañeros,
Termium both nationally and internationally in relation to this.
Thank you, Alejandra. And yeah, to point out, there's a huge not only is a lot of action taking at local and national level against mining companies like Ternium, but there's a huge international campaign through the Steel Coalition working to try and leverage international action against that particular operation in the Michoacán region, which, as Alejandra pointed out, has led to or been connected to several disappearances of human rights defenders working to challenge the impacts of mining in the region. We are getting close to time, and so I guess I'd like to see, we might have time for a couple more questions, but I'd like to come back to Melody and just, I guess, ask, based on your experience of listening to Alejandra and Lilian over the past hour talk about their work and talk about the challenges that they face. What have you kind of like learned from listening to them both, and how do you take this back to your work as a PBI volunteer in Mexico?
Oh, good question. Yeah, well, I think, my team, not me specifically, but my colleagues here work directly with Alejandra, and so yeah, we're constantly in communication with her, and we're up to date analyzing the situation in Michoacán and doing regular trips there. So I guess in that sense, it's just good always, I think, to hear these to speak directly with activists, and it's something that we always do anyway here, and I guess that's just the main thing that I would, I guess, take away, like the importance of keeping these dialogues open directly with them, to see like how we as PBI can do more to raise awareness of their struggles internationally, especially. I think that is what both Lilian and Alejandra have mentioned, the need to make sure that we continue talking about this, not just in PBI Mexico, but PBI UK, PBI, all the PBIs based in Europe, and making those links directly, whether that be like through kind of trips, tours that Alejandra has participated in, and just how we keep that link open on an international level, because I think, like you mentioned, with the the rise of authoritarianism and the right globally, we really need to kind of maintain these international channels and find create new strategies to I guess keep these conversations going, despite the intention to to violate more human rights, or to not listen to these voices on the ground. And I think that is really what we can do as the links that we have as through PBI, not just in each country, but globally, which is an amazing strength of us. And I think that is I don't know, it's really made me think about how PBI Mexico, how we maintain that. We of course always have communication with all of the officers of PBI, but how we can continue to make the communication at an international level more of a focus, and keep sharing these messages because it really makes a difference.
Thank you, Melody. And then I guess on that note, this kind of hopeful note of the need to kind of share messages with one another. Lilian, I'll come to you for the last question, which is, what would you like the audience listening here today to take away from your experience moving forward?
Bueno, en mi lucha necesitamos
So
que
in
el
my
banco se dé
struggle, we
cuenta
need
de
the
lo que
bank
está
to
financiando,
realize
que está
that it's
afectando a nuestra
funding
comunidad.
something that's affecting our
Necesitamos que
community.
las
We
personas del
need
Reino Unido los hagan
the people of
saber
the
al banco que
UK
debe
to
considerar
tell the bank
otorgar el préstamo al Estado
that they
de
should
Honduras
refuse
y
to
que su
give the
proyecto
loan
no deje
to
en
the
violar
state
los
of
derechos de
Honduras,
nuestras comunidades.
because and to prevent our rights from being violated as a community.
Thank you, Lilian, and the same to you, Alejandra. I guess what's the key message for our audience listening today?
Bueno, nosotras
Okay.
creemos que el
So
tema
we
de que
believe
las redes salvan redes es algo que
that
siempre
networks
recordamos.
save
Entonces, justamente
networks.
poder irnos conectando con otras
So
personas
yeah, the
tanto a nivel
power of
nacional
connecting
como
with
a nivel
other
internacional,
people, and
ir
nationally,
conociendo otras
internationally,
luchas,
and to
es
know about different people's
fundamental como para
struggles.
poder
We
seguir
think that's
luchando.
fundamental to be able to continue in
Y
our
al
struggle
final de cuentas, este
and
tipo
to
de
amplify our
espacios ayuda
struggle.
muchísimo.
And so I
El
think this
apoyo
helps a lot.
internacional
So
es,
international support is
en muchos casos, lo que marca la
is
diferencia.
what really makes a
Entonces,
difference
creo que
in
sería
many
eso.
cases. And so that would be my message for you.
Thank you so much, both of you. And on that note, I guess it's time to kind of wrap up, and to thank everybody for joining us today. On that note of building international networks, so thank you for ending on that, Alejandra. I just want to flag that if you are interested in volunteering as part of a PBI protection team, the protection unit in Mexico will be opening their application window from the 18th to the 31st of August, and you can find more information on PBI Mexico's website. The Honduran team will be opening their application window in September, so keep an eye on their website in particular. We really hope that you stay in touch with us. You will find links in the chat, which my colleague will post, about how to contact us and to receive updates about PBI's work and accompaniments, and also for future opportunities to volunteer with the PBI protection teams in Honduras, Mexico, Guatemala, and Colombia. So on that note, I just want to thank all of our panelists, Lilian, Alejandra, and Melody, for joining us today, and for speaking so eloquently about the work that you do, for showing us the cost of not doing this work, and for encouraging and, I guess, inspiring us all to keep championing you, to keep building networks, and to keep working and moving forward to ensure that these projects are prevented from causing future harms. So a huge thank you to all of you for taking part today. And with that, I'd also like to thank our interpreters, who have done an incredible job, and have behind the scenes interpreted both into Spanish and English for everybody listening. We will close the event now. I hope you all have a good morning, evening, wherever you are in the world. And thank you again for tuning in. If you have questions, the sign up list to PBI's mailing list, UK's mailing list, is in the chat. And please reach out via the email addresses provided. Oh, Alejandra, you have your hand up. Did you want to say one more thing?
Y nada más preguntar si Lilian
Just a
nos
question.
podría pasar el dato, no sé, de Facebook o de alguna red
Yeah,
social
Lilian, can you just send me your
como
contact
para
details?
ver lo de
Because it'd be good to
la lucha que lleva.
be able to learn more about what you're doing there.
We can facilitate that, Alejandra, don't worry. Okay, thank you, everybody. Have a good rest of your day, and we'll speak to you. Well, hope to hear from you soon via PBI's mailing list, or to see you join up to one of our volunteering programs. Thank you all.